Belgium's golden generation was supposed to be built on trust, brilliance, and unity. With stars like Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, and Thibaut Courtois, this squad was tipped to finally bring home a major trophy. But off the pitch, a scandal nearly tore them apart. It wasn't a tactical dispute or a clash over roles. It was something far more personal: betrayal inside a love triangle. When reports emerged that goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois had been involved with Kevin De Bruyne's girlfriend, the headlines moved from goals and assists to gossip and accusation. Suddenly, Belgium's dream team looked fragile, and questions about trust began to overshadow talent. This was not just a private heartbreak, it was a moment that tested professionalism at the highest level and threatened to derail one of football's most talented national teams. Let's go back to where it all began. To understand the scandal, we need to rewind to the early 2000s. At that time, Kevin De Bruyne was a rising star, still carving his path in European football. After leaving Genk, he joined Chelsea in 2012, but found first-team opportunities limited. In 2012 to 13, he was sent on loan to Werder Bremen, and by 2013, he was back at Chelsea before moving permanently to Wolfsburg in January 2014. It was during this period of constant movement that he was in a committed relationship with Caroline Lijnen, his long-term girlfriend. Meanwhile, Thibaut Courtois, only 2 years older, was also tied to Chelsea but was thriving out on loan at Atletico Madrid. By 2014, he had already won La Liga and reached a Champions League final, establishing himself as one of Europe's best young goalkeepers. Both De Bruyne and Courtois were cornerstones of Belgium's emerging golden generation, teammates for the national side and symbols of the country's footballing future. But while they were teammates in public, their private lives were about to collide in a way that no one could have predicted. Then, everything changed. In 2014, the simmering rumors finally boiled over into headlines. Caroline Lijnen, who had been in a long-term relationship with Kevin De Bruyne, confirmed publicly that she had been involved with Thibaut Courtois. What shocked the public even more was not just the confirmation, but how she framed it. Lijnen claimed that De Bruyne had cheated on her first, and that her affair with Courtois was an act of revenge. Her exact words, published widely in Belgian outlets, carried a sting that reverberated around Europe. That evening, Thibaut offered me what I had not received during a 3-year relationship with Kevin. He even cooked me a meal Kevin never did. It was a quote made for headlines, and the media ran with it. Within days, the story had spread beyond Belgium's press into international football media. The scandal wasn't just about a relationship gone wrong. It was about two of Belgium's biggest stars, teammates in a golden generation, suddenly entangled in a personal betrayal. The viral coverage painted De Bruyne as the heartbroken victim and Courtois as the unfaithful teammate. Lijnen's statement, raw and unfiltered, only amplified the drama. Fans debated loyalties. Pundits speculated on the impact inside the national team. And suddenly, Belgium's promising squad was known as much for tabloid headlines as tactical potential. For De Bruyne, the revelation was humiliating. For Courtois, it was a mark against his reputation that would linger for years. And for Belgium, the question loomed. Could two players at the center of such a scandal really coexist on the same pitch? The fallout was immediate and fierce. When the affair became public in 2014, many wondered whether Belgium's so-called golden generation would implode before it even reached its peak. Reports in the Belgian press suggested that Kevin De Bruyne and Thibaut Courtois went months without speaking to each other, even when called up for international duty. Dressing room insiders hinted at a visible tension. Courtois, the confident goalkeeper, thriving at Atletico Madrid, and De Bruyne, the rising playmaker, who would soon secure his move to Manchester City, were forced to share the same space under the national flag. And yet, professionalism kept them together. Both were too important to leave out. At the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil, Courtois started every match, while De Bruyne scored in the round of 16 against the United States. Belgium reached the quarterfinals before being eliminated by Argentina. And despite the personal rift, there were no public confrontations. The same dynamic carried into Euro 2016 in France. Belgium advanced to the quarterfinals again, only to be upset by Wales. Once more, De Bruyne and Courtois played crucial roles side by side, though the speculation around their personal history never faded. There was never an official statement from either man about the scandal. They never openly addressed the tension, but the silence itself became part of the story. Fans and media often debated whether Belgium's inability to turn talent into trophies was due, at least in part, to fractures like this one. How do they survive the spotlight together? More than a decade after the scandal first surfaced, both men have built new chapters, professionally and personally, though the memory of 2014 still lingers in football folklore. Kevin De Bruyne turned the page most convincingly. In 2017, he married Michelle Lacroix, and together they have 3 children. His public image transformed from scandal-hit youngster into a model professional and family man. On the pitch, his career soared. Since joining Manchester City in 2015 for around £55 million, he has become one of the greatest midfielders of his generation. With over 100 Premier League assists and multiple league titles, De Bruyne is now seen as the beating heart of Pep Guardiola's dynasty. His calm presence off the field only reinforced his reputation as a leader, admired not just for brilliance, but for resilience. Thibaut Courtois, meanwhile, also built stability in his personal life. After high-profile relationships, he married Michelle Gerzig in 2023. Professionally, he remains one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Since moving from Chelsea to Real Madrid in 2018 for about 35 million euros, Courtois has become indispensable, winning 2 La Liga titles and the 2022 Champions League, where he was named Man of the Match in the final. He has rarely spoken about the scandal, preferring to let his performances define his narrative. Today, both men share the same dressing room for Belgium's national team. Their personal history largely unspoken. The past hasn't been erased, but time, trophies, and families have reshaped the story. Time doesn't erase memory, but it reshapes the narrative. Belgium's so-called golden generation, with Kevin De Bruyne, Thibaut Courtois, Eden Hazard, Vincent Kompany, and Romelu Lukaku, was tipped to dominate world football between 2014 and 2022. At their peak, they were ranked number 1 in FIFA's world rankings for over 3 years straight. On paper, few squads looked more complete. But while the talent was undeniable, chemistry was often questioned. When the Courtois-De Bruyne scandal became public in 2014, the timing couldn't have been worse. That summer, Belgium reached the quarterfinals of the World Cup in Brazil, their first major run in decades, only to fall to Argentina. 2 years later at Euro 2016, they again bowed out in the quarterfinals, this time to Wales. For fans and pundits, the gap between potential and performance was glaring. The affair itself was never officially acknowledged as a direct cause, but media speculation was relentless. Insiders spoke of lingering tension, and many argued that while professional enough to share the pitch, the lack of full trust between star players mattered when margins were thin. A golden generation often needs not just ability, but perfect unity. Belgium, critics argued, never truly had that. Of course, not every missed trophy can be traced to one scandal. Injuries, tactical limitations, and tough opponents also played their part. Yet the Courtois De Bruyne affair became a symbol of the cracks in Belgium's brightest era. A reminder that personal lives and dressing room harmony can never be completely separated. Sometimes history remembers wins and whispers scandals. The Courtois De Bruyne affair was more than just a tabloid headline. It was a reminder that even in the world of elite athletes, where focus, discipline, and teamwork define careers, human emotions and personal betrayals can spill onto the global stage. For Kevin De Bruyne, the betrayal cut deep. For Thibaut Courtois, the fallout stained his reputation beyond his goalkeeping ability. And for fans, it turned Belgium's so-called golden generation into something far messier than a tactical discussion on formations. This was not a locker room argument or a transfer saga. It was a personal fracture inside a team expected to win it all. Yet what followed is equally striking. Both men chose professionalism. De Bruyne kept delivering for Wolfsburg, Manchester City, and Belgium. Courtois became one of the best keepers in the world at Atletico, Chelsea, and later Real Madrid. On the pitch, they set aside private history and played for the same badge, showing that in football, duty often outweighs resentment. This story highlights a truth fans often forget. Footballers are human first. They carry emotions, mistakes, and relationships, all under a magnifying glass that turns whispers into scandals. But they also remind us that professionalism can survive even the most personal of betrayals, because even at the top, personal history doesn't stop at the tunnel. In the end, Belgium's golden generation will be remembered for brilliance on the pitch and heartbreak off it. The affair between Thibaut Courtois and Kevin De Bruyne's girlfriend was a private betrayal that became a public storm. It shook fans, divided opinions, and left many wondering whether the scars ever truly healed. Yet when the whistle blew, both men still wore the same jersey, still lined up for the same anthem, still carried the weight of a nation's hope. That contrast, heartbreak in private, resolve in public, is what makes this story unforgettable. It's more than gossip. It's a lesson about how fragile trust can be, even among world-class teammates, and how professionalism sometimes demands silence over confrontation. So, what do we expect of our heroes? Do we respect their ability to perform despite betrayal? Or do we demand perfection even in their personal lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Could teammates survive this today? Let's discuss, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of football's deepest dramas.